parents accused of failing drug tests, their children kept in state custody as a result. Now a judge is calling for change. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. In many states, when drugs are the basis of a child welfare case, parents can be required to submit to hair follicle drug screens. Those screens are done by private labs with contracts that cost some states more than $1 million a year.
But one of those labs, Expertox, is now under scrutiny following claims of false positives.
Saying that I failed drug screens that I know I haven't used any drugs. I've done everything that I've needed to do to fight to get them back, and it's like all of my efforts have failed.
We talked to several parents in Georgia who say the lab is stealing their sobriety, and they have results from other independent labs to prove it.
Investigative reporter Sierra Cummings explains how educating more people about a specialized testing process could have better outcomes for families left in limbo.
It is a blessing, I tell you.
William Brock just got off his first job. Before heading to his second, he's making a trip to see his daughter. The toddler is not at home. She's in the custody of Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS.
She's a bright, beautiful young little girl, and she wants to come home. She really doesn't understand what's going on. She asks a lot of questions, but it's hard to explain to a 3-year-old.
Hard to explain why they only have 2-hour state supervised visits.
Part of your case plan to get her back in your custody is sobriety and random drug screens.
Yes, ma'am.
And how's that been going?
Well, it hadn't been going good.
It goes back to William's criminal history. He lost child custody in Floyd County. He was on drugs. He went to prison on drug charges. The 59-year-old admits the past addiction, but says the state conviction turned his life around. The sentence included living in a facility for substance abuse and treatment.
Anger management, parenting, criminal addictive thinking. You work on all different kind of things.
Upon successful completion of the 9-month program, the state granted William parole.
Is in compliance with his conditions of parole or probation supervision.
He's currently in compliance, as this letter shows. He's passed all Georgia Department of Corrections random drug screens. William's freedom depends on these tests. Meanwhile, his custody case depends on random drug screens too, a separate set done by DFACS Labs. But the problem?
All the ones from Department of Corrections are saying you're negative, and the ones from DFACS are saying you're positive.
Yes, ma'am.
Positive for methamphetamine.
And it's unbelievable.
These tests are all hair follicle samples taken from his arm. Expertox is contracted to do the test on behalf of DFACS. Our reporting found Expertox does not use a specialized test called DL isomer. It distinguishes between legal methamphetamine like medicine versus illicit meth like the street drug. The test could minimize false positives, or at least claims of it.
The DL isomer test is what needs to be done.
In an October 1st interview, Expertox told us they would use the method statewide. However, it seems as if the company has not, at least in Williams' case. The lab writing this disclosure statement in his November positive result, the DL isomer test for methamphetamine was not performed. As a result, Expertox Inc. was unable to distinguish between illicit and non-illicit forms of methamphetamine in the sample.
Yes, they're still in my sobriety.
State policy does not mandate the method.
I began there as a judge pro tem.
Judge Peggy Walker suggests that's a part of the concern.
But it also seems like the state doesn't know to require it.
And that's absolutely correct. What is missing in terms of services for our children and families is that quality control measure.
The senior judge for juvenile courts of Georgia acknowledges in the past she's made assumptions based on a parent's drug screen results. But Walker now cautions her peers to take more training on the science, just as she has. The 29-year veteran on the bench argues drug screens are not always right.
That's where the fundamental fairness comes in. And that's where it becomes our obligation to look at the big picture.
She watched our stories questioning the reliability of hair follicle testing and parents getting independent tests at their own expense at the advice of their attorney.
And not solely focus on those drug screens, because not everyone has the financial ability to have that testing and to have an attorney who will step up, step in, and challenge those results as dramatically as your story.
William challenges his DFACS results, spending $75 out of his own pocket for independent hair follicle tests. So each time DFACS randomly screens him,
Go get my own.
these independent results show negative for drugs. The father pays to prove his innocence, although he maintains the burden should be on the state to prove accuracy of its own screens, tests that determine the outcome of a family.
And it's just heartbreaking, for her to have to go through this. But I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Expertox has previously denied claims of faulty drug results, citing lab accreditation, and the lab is not breaking any rules by not performing the DL isomer test, because Georgia is not mandating a specific testing method or paying for that specialized process. But DFACS told us they are actively reviewing the situation and exploring ways to address these concerns. Several states, including Texas, have ended their contracts with lab companies like Expertox. You can learn more about those cases on investigatetv.com. Just search Stolen Sobriety.